Hey, welcome. Thanks everybody for joining us. I believe we are live here on YouTube. This is Mark Soberman here. I'm not exactly sure what side you see me, but we're going to go ahead and get started. Hey, Brian, I'm going to go ahead and click a button here so you can start to show your screen.
Okay.
So you should have screen share, I believe. I'll let you know if it pops up in a moment here. And that, of course, is Brian from NetPicks that you see on this screen.
Hey, everybody.
All right, looks like we'll just hit a button here and it should add it to the stream. Yep, so I see your chart there. So again, welcome everybody. Thanks so much for joining us here live on a Friday afternoon. We really appreciate you taking some time out of your day, and hopefully you guys all have a fun weekend planned ahead of you. So we won't take too long here today, but we thought this would be a great opportunity at the end of the week to, one, just kind of tell you a little bit more about the high velocity wave trader, try to cover how things went this week. That's always a curiosity for myself. I'm sure for all of you as well, to see what our results look like. Did we make money? Did we lose money? Did we break even? Let's hope it's the first one there. But Brian will take us through all of that. And then also, we want to make sure that you guys get an opportunity to ask your questions. We've obviously had a video and a full demonstration video out on the system, but there's nothing sometimes that beats being here live and be able to I should say, ask a question and then give us the opportunity to answer those questions. Because ultimately, we want you all to make the best opportunity for your, decision for yourself, whether you should come on board and join the high velocity wave trader, if this will make a significant difference in your trading. So I have some of the top questions. I can get those answered, but definitely feel free. You can type into YouTube, and we'll see those as we move along here. So Brian, let me go ahead and hand it off to you. I know you want to show them a few things first, and then we'll start to answer some questions as we move along.
Thanks, Mark. And so what I'd like to do is just take everybody through kind of what happened this week. If you've kept up with the emails, you've probably seen some of the different charts we've thrown out there to you, even some live room replays. And if you've had a chance to watch the presentation, obviously you're aware of some of these things, but I'm going to assume maybe some of you haven't looked at this way of trading yet. So I want to take you through just for 60 seconds or 2 minutes, some of the basics of high velocity wave trader. So what you're looking at on the screen is the charting that we use for the HVWT or high velocity wave trader. And this is a special bar type that we call a Renko Heikin-Ashi combination. This bar type to me is, 1 second.
That's now you know it's live when Brian's getting phone calls.
All right, sorry about that, guys. That was, yeah, anyways. So let's get back to this. This is a special bar type, Heikin-Ashi Renko. I've been a fan of Renko bars for years. I just like the way they plot. And the key to this bar type is that it is not time-based. This bar could print in 10 seconds. The bar that I'm going to point to right here could print in 2 minutes. And I think that's the important thing in this strategy. We don't require a bar to be printed at a 5-minute interval, a 15-minute interval, and then we can act on that movement of price action. And so I'm going to go over that in a little bit. I'm going to show you some results from this week. The other thing, other components to the system that we have are what we call the WT momentum. You see that down here on the chart. And that's the only indicator that we use for some additional confirmation to get into a trade. And we cover what it does in the training, but just know that we don't use a lot of indicators in this process. And then the key ingredient here is the indicator on the very bottom. It's an indicator that measures the intent bar by bar. So each bar will have the potential to be more of a long intent bar or a short intent bar. And then we mark that on the chart with the diamonds and the circle, and then in some cases a triangle, which just simply means a change of direction. So that's the component of the system right there. So you see everything that I use. The main driver of the system is the price action, which to me is key. It's not an overly complicated system. When I designed this, that was one of the requirements that I had. I didn't want a system that was, had 5,000 different rules for this case and that case. It wanted it to be very, very simple. So that in a nutshell is the system and the approach. Obviously, we go into a little more detail as how you will trade it in our training and then our live trade room that we do each and every day. So what I want to do next is actually take you through some of the sessions at the right edge of the chart and show you the results. These trades were called live in the room this week. If you sign up, you can go into the members site and play these videos back exactly like I'm going to show you right now. So that's the cool thing. So what we're looking at here is from Monday. Monday was one of those days that we call a home run day. And the thing that
Hey
I'm going to,
Brian, can I interrupt
yes,
you to start real quick? This is the
yes,
just so everybody knows, they're looking at the Russell E-mini futures. Is that correct?
that is correct. Thank you, Mark. I assume
Yeah, sure.
everybody understands that. But yeah, this is a futures instrument to get really basic. It is my favorite instrument, an instrument I've traded for, I don't remember how long, for many, many years, probably 15 plus years. And so yeah, this is the Russell futures contract. And we will go long and short on this contract, as you will see. And we do not hold positions overnight or long term. This is all day trading. It's focused on a very, very quick window. That's the other thing about the system is we look to basically get in and get out and get done. I'm going to talk about power of quitting here in just a minute. So anyways, this is from Monday. The system has two components to it, which are very important. The first, when we get into a trade, the first position, we go for a fixed target. It's a 12 tick target. And we use that part of the trade to basically make you feel comfortable as a trader. Whenever we hit that 12 tick target, it's like you can kind of rest easy. And then you let the second position of this system, which is what we call the big wave trade, do whatever it's going to do. And that's exactly what we did on Monday. We set ourselves up to potentially capture a move. The other thing I should tell you is that we do trade the sweet spots of the different markets that I'm going to show you. I'm showing you the Russell right now. We're looking at the Open, the US Open, which is 9:30. On the DAX, which I'll show you in a moment, we look at the 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time and the 3 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, which corresponds to the 9 a.m. Open of the German DAX. So again, my point there is we focus on the opens, and a lot of time at the open, there's pent up overnight order flow that can come into the market, and that's what we're setting ourselves up to try to capture. And on Monday, like I said, that's exactly what we did. Just a really steady move here to the upside. And we have a mechanism that will teach you in the training that basically tells you when to exit. There's a trailing mechanism, which is very powerful. And it allows you to basically trail this entire move. And I think we sent this out on an email this week, all the way up to this exit point right here for a 10-point overall move. And then here was the overall result of the two trades, 12 points, which is the equivalent of $1,200 using 4 contracts. I like to use 4 contracts on the Russell because it goes back to the old days when the Russell used to be 10 points per tick. They've now changed it to $5 per tick. So I always like to do 2 and 2 or in multiples of 2. And in this case, the trade took about 41 minutes and we were done, power of quitting. That's what we call a home run day. And you should book your profit, move on, close your laptop, close your computer, whatever, and just call it a day at that point. So that was Monday. Let's see what I want to do next. Let me flip over to the DAX. I want to show you the DAX trading and specifically another component of the system that we have. So you might say, well, this is great, right? We had a good, nice, good, solid trend, but what happens if we don't have a trend? And that can be the case, and I want to show you what happens there. And before I get into that, let me show you the DAX on this day. This is from the 13th, which was yesterday on the
Yep.
DAX. Okay, thanks, Mark. And so on this day, we have during the active part of the session, we had 2 trades. This trade here got a fixed position. We'll go for 15 ticks on the DAX. And the big wave position in this case didn't get as much. It got 2 points. All right, that's the first trade. Second trade in the sequence is this one. It's a short. As I mentioned to you, we can go long and short. And here we got our fixed position, 15 ticks, and 6.5 on the big wave exit. All right, so some days will be like that. Not every day is going to be a big home run day like I just showed you on the Russell. All right, but we set
Hey
ourselves up
Brian,
to
what
capture
do you
those
think
moves.
is the what do you find like is the general pattern, like the more of those home run, more breakout move days
Hmm.
versus these type of days? I mean, I know it varies by week and volatility, but
Hmm.
what tends to be like, what's the percentage do you think home run versus more like these kind of trying to just grab what you can?
So I would say on a home run day, the expectation a lot of times for a new trader is, well, tomorrow is going to be another home run day, but typically it's not that way. Um, I would say maybe you'll have one decent move in a week, and then you'll have two moves that are kind of medium sized. I'll show you some of those on the Russell that we had that this week, and then you're going to have one day that's going to be tough. It's just going to be slower price action, and the issue becomes, what do you do when price action isn't moving? So that's what I'm going to show you next. What happens when we don't get that movement, and what do we do? What mechanism do we have in the system that kind of keeps you out of that mess? So the point I want to make here, first of all, before I move into that part of it, this is what we call POQ right here. So we had two winning trades, and a brand new trader should be done at this point. They shouldn't even be trading into the session until they have some good experience with our method. But for those advanced traders that do trade into the session, we actually go into what we call a chop zone, and there's very specific rules that put us in this mode. All right. Once we're in the mode, we require price action to break out before we start trading again. This means when we go into chop mode, it means that the market is no longer trending, that it's moving sideways. And this chop zone rule set that we have inside of the high velocity wave trader can actually expand out over time and get bigger and bigger before it actually breaks in one direction or the other. On this day, it stayed in this zone for what? Roughly 10 to 15 minutes in through here. So it wasn't long. Sometimes they can go on for an hour. In this case, we had our breakout here. And then this is when we re-engage and take the next trade. Okay, so right here, after this breakout, it's time to trade again. Out of the chop zone, time to trade. Here's our setup. We get our fixed on that next trade. And in this case, the big wave again. Again, we're setting ourselves up with that second position. That's the power of the high velocity wave traders, the second position, because we never know how far a move is going to go. And in this case, the one thing I like about the DAX is it moves very, very nicely in some cases. So here's an overall move of 54 points on the big wave position alone, and that's worth 62 points on both those trades for 1,550 euros. So anyways, that I just wanted to more show you this mechanism that we have, what we call the chop zone, that when price stops trending, then we do step into this mode. And it's just as important to know when to step aside and not trade as it is to trade. And so anyways.
Hey Brian, let's go ahead and answer a few questions. I know you've got some more you want to show, but let's take a quick little break in the action on the charts and just get a few of these questions answered for people. So I'll pop it up on the screen. So this one from Chris, it says he's asking, you show the entry exactly in the room.
So exactly, when a setup presents itself, I call that setup. If we're going to work around a pivot area, which I don't want to get into too much on that today. Sometimes there's near pivots that we'll work around. I call that out and I tell you that we're going to do that. And we walk you through the process live and in real time. And I think that is as important as any training that you can watch, because we don't know what's coming next. On Monday, when we took that trade, that was a huge home run day. We didn't know that was going to be the case. All we did was implement the system and call that, that trade set up live. So yes.
Yeah, and the key is, I think, what Brian's definitely saying there is you need to take the trades. I mean, don't start to second guess, don't speculate, don't decide, well, I don't really see how this trade's going to work out. When we
Mm-hmm.
have our start time and the trade plan, you just go and you go in. The other thing I do want to stress here, so there's no confusion, this is a trading system that you fully own. You'll be trading, you'll have the software. So we're not trying to make this like this is an alert service or you have to join us every day live. It's just great training, especially in the beginning. It's amazing reinforcement, right, Brian? But they'll have the entire system and they'll, have this to be able to take the trades as they come up, correct?
Correct. Yep. You'll have everything you need, all the tools. In fact, you don't even have to be in the trade room if you don't want to. I recommend it in the beginning. In fact, what I find a lot of times is traders will be in the trade room for a period of time, and then once they're very comfortable, they go off on their own, and they can then really focus on their own trading.
Awesome. And then a question here from Christopher. What is the winning percentage?
The overall winning percentage, I'm going to put it in a daily and then weekly basis. We power of quitting traders, those traders that go for 1 win or 2 wins and then they're done, can end most sessions, I'm going to say, in the high 80% POQ, power of quitting, with some kind of profit. Sometimes it's a big profit, sometimes it's a smaller profit. The key there is to adhere to that and not overtrade. So most
And that's
sessions are
really
going
the
to end.
key, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it
That
is
is
the
like
key.
how do you end the day, and then
Hmm.
how did you end the week? Is the week positive? Is the day positive?
Right.
Those are definitely
Right. And
key
again, I would
criteria.
say week to week, you're going to be positive, 90% of the time. This week we were very positive, and so that's the key with this system.
Awesome. Yeah, and we also want to make sure you guys know. Look, you're going to have losing trades, no question.
Hmm.
You're going to have losing days, and you will have an occasional losing week. Thankfully, like Brian explained, it's the minority by far. But you have to always be prepared for that. That's why we want you to use, the right kind of leverage, the right position sizing for your account, and we go through some of that in the training. And that's also why the live training that Brian holds is great, because if you're not sure on that in the beginning, these are the kind of questions you can ask. Plus, other people in the community we'll be more than happy to help answer some of that. Ed's asking here, you said the first target was 12 ticks. I believe that would have been on the Russell E-mini. Please
Hmm.
explain in more detail, how much is that worth in dollars? So
Hmm.
basically, you're looking at now, believe this is correct, right, Brian? It's $5 per tick per contract. We
Hmm.
like to trade 2 contracts because that used to represent 1 contract before they split everything, which we like to think in $10 per tick. So 2 contracts to 12 ticks, $120. Is that correct?
That's absolutely correct. Yep.
All right, got my math right. Awesome. I still got it. Let me see here. Chris is asking great results, but critical is the entry. So I don't know if he's asking about like the time you have or making sure that your entry is correct.
So the entry part of the process is really pretty easy once you understand the sequence of what we're looking for. And Chris, that name looks familiar. You might even be in the room, and maybe he's making that statement as a matter of fact. But yeah. So just looking, this is from yesterday, the 13th again on the Russell. So here was our indication to go long. If you look at this, 1, 2, 3, there's our setup at the 1 minute, 2 second mark. And we know we're going to get into this position. Okay. And you have plenty of time. If your question is, do you have time to get into this? Yes, you do. Right there. You have plenty of time. And in fact, price pulls back and gives you an opportunity to get on board that trade. So I find most of the time I actually can pull the trigger on 99% of the trades, and I'm calling the room live, which is highly distracting, because I'm projecting a screen into the room and talking to you guys, and then I have to on a second screen actually pull the trigger. So it's very easy to do.
Ray is asking what platform is being used.
Right. So what you're looking at here is NinjaTrader 7. It's what I recommend you if you are going to make a choice on the 2 platforms that we support. So NinjaTrader 7, and then TradeStation is also an option for you if you have a TradeStation account. The indicator set works on that platform.
And you also support Ninja 8, is that correct?
We do. We do support Ninja 8. I always tell people I hate being on the bleeding edge, and I've just been really, really, what do you want to say, stubborn to move forward to NinjaTrader 8. So you certainly can do that. But in the room, I'm going to be using 7.
Awesome. Joe's asking, does the chop zone plot on its own, or do we have to know how to define and mark
Mm-hmm.
it?
Mm-hmm. There is a very specific circumstance that kicks in the chop zone. Again, I'm not going to give you all the details here. That's in the training. But the second you go through the training and come into the room, you're going to know exactly what that is that kicks it in. And it's very simple to identify the zone once it happens.
Awesome. Let's see. Trade here says, what about when the candle wicks go nuts and hit the stop losses as your chart makes it look nice? It's so smooth and now whipsaw. So one thing to be clear on is if price action goes to our stop, that's it. We get stopped out, and it's represented on the chart as well. But I don't know if you want to address that at all, because it's a good question. But there's never any pains. That's a fear of traders, that suddenly like a trade exists on a
Right.
chart that goes to target that in reality would not have happened.
Right. So the nice thing about this bar is it has to move X number of ticks either direction to form the bar. Once a bar is formed, it's not going to change going forward. So, and once we get our entry, we have a certain amount of risk that we're going to take on that trade. That I, tell you what that is, and that's where your stop is. If you happen to see pivots on the chart that you want to give it a little more room in some cases, I'll teach you how to do that. But other than that, that's your stop. If price comes back and touches it, it'll show you that on the chart. It's not like it's invisible on the chart somehow and you get magically taken out. That doesn't happen. So so that's my answer to that.
Yeah, sometimes on straight Renko bars, if people are familiar with
Oh,
those can
yes.
actually like disappear off the chart the way it's built like a brick, but that's not the case
Mm-hmm.
with these bars.
Right. That's a good point. I understand what they're saying now. This is a combination bar type, by the way, just so you're clear. It's a Hikanashi Renko. So whatever you see on the high and the low of the bar is the actual high and the low of the bar.
Exactly. It looks like a Renko, a little bit like where you may think that's
Mm-hmm.
happening because it sort of like smatters on the chart, but
Mm-hmm.
that's actually catching the extreme highs and lows of every swing. So nothing just disappears after that. Question here: what time should we take the trade? So you don't have to go into the exact, all the specifics, Brian, but when do we tend to be trading the system?
Yeah, so for the U.S. Open, as I mentioned, 9:30 a.m. start, and we have a very specific rule set for the first part of the session. It's a 5-minute window of time. We call it the active part of the session. After that 5-minute window, we go into trend mode. Again, I'll explain all this to you in the training and in the live room. And then in trend mode, we have very specific rules of getting into a trade. And it's very, very easy once you understand the process. So 9:30, US Open, like I mentioned on the DAX, 2 a.m., 3 a.m. 3 a.m. is the sweet spot on the DAX. So those are our, on the DAX side of it, that's our option for our Eurozone traders. So I've got some Australian traders that trade the DAX. And so those are the main two markets that we trade. Crude oil, you can trade that around 8:50 starting time. And if you want to trade the crude oil report, which we've done in the past, you can do that at 10:30, typically on Wednesdays.
And I think Brian, and just to clarify, Brian's talking New York time, Eastern time. So just kind of
Yeah.
convert that to your times, and we just talk in New York time just to keep everybody on the same page. Um, sure, or sure shink or whatever. Can we keep very small stop losses and try mini buying? So bottom line
Mm,
here is you have a very fixed risk. Brian keeps it as small as possible. You got to allow for some market noise after you get in. Like Brian mentioned, most things retrace a little bit
hmm.
after you get in. So he definitely makes that as small as possible. But you do have to at least allow a little bit of breathing room in order for that trade to be able to kind of make it. Let me go ahead and share. We'll stop for a moment. I want to share a few things. I see some other questions here, but I wanted to share. May want to take down for as we go through this presentation today. So if you want to have like a full system demonstration, I'll put it up on the screen here. Then I'll also type it into the chat here in a moment. But you can watch a full demonstration at netpicks.com/hvwt June. And then we take you through all the details of how the program works, what's included, how much it costs, what the training is like, a lot more trade examples. So I wanted you guys to have that. Also, I know some people sometimes, they're ready to go. They just needed a question or two answered. If that's where you're at, you can definitely enroll right away. Again, link on the screen. I'll put it in the chat here in just in a moment in the comments. It's netflix.com/hvwt1. That goes directly to the enrollment form. And to thank all of you for being here live today and asking questions and participating, I did want to share a promo code with everybody, and that's the word June. So if you do decide to enroll, if you decide that this is right for you, and we'd love to have you, you can go ahead and on the order form, it'll say, have promo code. You just click that, you type in June, lowercase is best, you click apply, and then magically it will take $300 off the usual price, which is pretty significant discount overall. So I'll put those in the chat here in a moment as we keep answering questions. And I know Brian's got a few more trades he wants to show you. So let me go back to the comments real quick and see what the next one is. Yeah, this one probably is asking Brian a little bit about like, what do you recommend on account sizes?
Right. So on the Russell, it's going to be broker dependent. If you're going to trade a single contract one-on-one, you could probably get away with a $5,000 account. The thing that you want to think about there is what is your risk per trade? You want to try to keep it in the 1 to 3% zone if you can do that. So if you're going to do that, you're probably going to be looking at a $10,000 account to be more in line with that. And the reason it's not that you consume more of that money, it's just more psychological from a trading standpoint in how much your account draws down. So that's our recommendation overall. Try to keep it in that 1 to 3% zone risk per your account size. And so on the DAX, obviously that's a bigger tick value. You're going to need about a $20,000 account to trade the DAX.
Gary here. We're not trading with Forex. We don't stop anybody from using the system or the methodology on any market they want. The only thing we would tell you is that we are trading tried and proven markets that have generated consistent income, that have generated consistent results, that we can tell you exactly when you should start and stop and what to expect. You can, of course, go ahead and use the method and the approach on anything with price action, but you better take a lot of time just making sure you go through and you practice, you do some back testing, you verify that things are going to work, and don't do it just over a few days or a week or two, because markets change dramatically month to month and quarter to quarter. I've seen this so many times. This is a system, by the way, that's been proven out over 3 years now. So we've seen all kinds of market conditions, from big ranging, big volatility, bear market pushes, bull market pushes, kind of sideways markets. That's really important because, again, doing this for 23 years, I can't tell you how many times, even I've personally been involved trading a system that seems like it's working amazing. And then all of a sudden, like after 2 months or 3 months, it completely falls apart. Like your equity curve is almost straight up, and you would think it's going to keep doing that. And then sure enough, something changes and then it like literally does the exact opposite forevermore. So the nice thing with this methodology is that's not something you're going to experience because it's kind of been tried and proven through all these variety of conditions. Chris is asking here, will I be able to join the trade room on a month-to-month after purchase? By the way, you'll see when you go through the details and the full presentation, you'll have 12 months of full access to the trade room, etc. So don't even worry about that. That's included. So more than enough. Obviously, you don't need to attend the live rooms for that long, but on occasion, you might want to have a refresher, or maybe a question will come up that you'll want to ask Brian, or Will, our programmer, also does a lot of the live rooms. He's amazing as well. So you can just take advantage of that. Chris here is asking, he's saying Renko Nashi, so pretty close overall, never heard of it. Do you want to address anything else with like what's kind of special about this bar, Brian?
Yeah, it's not a bar type that you're going to find on any platform. We custom developed this bar type. And so I'm not going to get into the detail of it, but it is a combination of those two bar types, and we plot that on the screen. So Mark kind of alluded to one of the disadvantages of a straight up Renko bar. It's more of a brick style where the price action builds brick by brick, okay? But the problem with a straight up Renko bar is it can actually extend outside of that range of the bar that's being built on that brick. Well, to solve that issue, making it a combination of the Renko and Heikin-Ashi bar, we solved that problem. So that's why the question earlier that was asked, can price extend outside of what we see on the chart? The answer to that is no. Okay, so it's a custom bar type only available through our indicator set, and it's a bar type that it just makes, for me, it resonates with me as a trader, and it makes a lot of sense in what we see on the chart and the action that we can take based on that information.
Awesome. Thanks, Brian. We'll go ahead and do a final call out. If you have any more questions, type those in now, and we'll get back to Q&A in a moment. We'll finish up with that. But Brian, are there any other charts you wanted to show?
I'll show one more chart, Mark. I'll show one more
Sure.
chart. We'll start to wind things down here. I know we don't want to go
Yeah.
really long with this, but you asked the question. We showed a home run day. What's another type of a day that we can experience? And so this was from yesterday, and kind of what we experienced. And so I just wanted to walk through it. Here's the start of the session. We had our indicator to go long right there. That was our long indication. We actually pushed this setup, and if you watch again the video, you'll see that we did this. We pushed it above the session high because we were just banging right into it, and we wanted confirmation to get in this trade. As you can see here again, we hit our 12-tick target right there. And then after that, price action continued in our favor, and then we exited on our trailing mechanism right here for 3.7 on our big weight position. Now you can see the overall result there. That's kind of a spoiler alert, but we had this second trade, and the thing that I want to say in the room is you could have talked yourself out of taking this next trade because the trend was up, right? And all of a sudden it reverses and goes down, and then here's your setup to go short. the market just didn't feel like it wanted to go short at that point, right? We had information that said it was going long, but you have to trade and take each trade setup as it comes and follow the system. That's the key. I like to say that we don't know jack as traders. We don't know what's coming next. All we can do is rely on a system and an approach to guide us in that process. And so here was our trade setup to go short. Again, we worked it around this pivot. Again, I'll cover that in the training. Don't worry about that part of it. We hit our 12-tick target, and in this case, we got 5.4 on that short trade. This was once it let loose, it was a powerful move to the downside. That's 42 minutes of trading and 11.5 points on the Russell. Again, trading 4 contracts. It's $1,150 overall, and are quitting 2 trades and done. And like I said, in about 42 minutes. So that's another day that I wouldn't call it. I mean, this is a home run day too. It's 2 winning trades, lots of decent profit. It's just not that big single trade move to the upside. So, Mark, that's pretty much everything I have. Obviously, there's other charts I could show, but I think let's start to see if there's any final questions and bring it to a close.
Yeah, sure, definitely. And like Brian mentioned, just so everybody knows, with 4 contracts, you can just as easily trade 2 contracts to start. One contract at the fixed target, one
Mm-hmm.
contract on the trail, or hopefully get the home run moves on occasion. And this way, you capture everything. And it's kind of nice because the Rustling Mini, even though we preferred it, maybe we're so used to it when it was $10 a tick. This lets you kind of split the trade basically, and not have to say just the fixed target or just the home run trade, do both. And psychologically, it really makes a big difference. You may ask sometimes, well, why don't I just always go for the home run trade? And my answer would be, of course, you can do whatever you like. But there's just something psychological about grabbing that initial quick winner that really is going to make you stay in the trades on the bigger moves, because otherwise what happens psychologically is people tend to second guess a lot, and then you're going to go ahead and talk yourself out of staying in a move because you're going to want to grab those profits. You hate to see it start to tick against you. It feels a lot better when you know you've already taken part of the trade out, you've already banked a profit. You can kind of relax at that point and just let the price action do what it has to do. So let's hit a few final questions here. So on this one, I think really all you're asking, we're not buying share quantities like 250. We're buying futures contracts. So typically you're talking 1, 2, 4, etc. You're using margin basically to buy this leveraged instrument. And then we make a certain dollar amount for each tick or each point that this market moves. So the Russell Mini, like we had mentioned, it's $5 per tick. Typically, like on a trade that goes 12 ticks, that's going to be obviously $5 times 12, or if you're doing 10 contracts, it's $10 times 12. But in this case, when we get 11.5 total, we get the full $1,150. So you just need to think of it like you're, basically buying, or you're using margin. You're paying for a small percentage of the overall value of the market that you're trading. It's just kind of different than stocks. So it takes a little bit maybe to understand that or get used to that if you're new to futures, but eventually it just becomes another thing that you're buying and selling. But rather than 100, 200, 500 at a time, it tends to be 1, 2, 4, that type of thing. Mark, to answer this question, you'll have it for the full 12 months. That you'll have access to the system, and then of course you can continue after the 12 months and continue with the software. But you get a full year, and you'll be able to use that for that first full year. And then if you extend it out beyond that, of course, you'll continue to have access to it. And this question, may have missed it, but after your entry, where would you place your stop? So, Brian, maybe just cover that again, since I don't think you picked that up a little bit earlier.
Right. So there's 2. I'll go into detail on that. There's 2 ways to look at it. On a setup like this right here, it's 22 ticks back or behind the prior pivot. So sometimes the setup will come late in a move, and it can actually be a little more than 22 ticks. But the key is to get behind the pivot that is set in that process.
Yeah, that's something that we will definitely teach you. We always like to start with a fixed number in mind because I want to know my maximum risk no matter what. I want that to be manageable and small. However, we also want to respect price action on the chart, and it's worth it to give it a few more ticks uh, by respecting that price action.
Understand
Lauren
too.
says,
Understand
oh,
too.
yeah,
When a
sorry, go
trade
ahead.
starts to go in our favor, we have a mechanism to ratchet that down, so that risk starts to come down as the trade progresses.
Good point. Yeah, that's really important. So yeah, moment you start to get movement your way, again, you can start to breathe again because you'll be able to minimize, reduce, and eliminate the risk. I mean, when you start to get these moves, your risk is gone. As the move develops. Lawrence wants to know usual length of trade. I think they're looking for like what's kind of the average, like the shortest amount of time you spend in a session, and then what tends to be the average.
The shortest amount of time that I've ever seen is like a 2 minute. If you're going for POQ 2 minutes, typically the room itself I have open till about 10 o'clock or 10:15, so about 45 minutes, and we're most of the time done at that point.
Cool. And then do we trade Fridays? We obviously trade Monday through Friday when we're able to.
Yep, I do open the room on Friday. We did a session today.
Awesome. Let me give everybody the links once again. If you want a more full system demonstration, a little bit more, well, a lot more detail on specific things, what really comes with the software, what the training looks like, the learning curve, some more trade examples, and it's also should be in the comments on YouTube as well. If you're driving around or you can't take these down right now, they're in the comments if you come back to it later. But you can see a full system demo, netflix.com/HVWTJune. The enrollment link is here. That's only if you're ready to go. Of course, if you're not ready to go, that's fine. Hopefully, we've answered your questions. If you need a lot more answered, then I would definitely watch the full video presentation link that I gave you. That should tell you pretty much everything that you need. And then just as a thank you from us for joining us here, we've had a lot of fun with the live. We've had up to about 100 people live here today and some great questions. We wanted to give you a promo code that you can use if you do decide to enroll. And that's the promo code on the screen, which is the word June for the month. And we kind of expect to be shutting down this launch. I would say we're probably looking at Monday or Tuesday. So you got a couple more days here, but then that's going to be it. We only open this up about 3 times a year. So probably the next time is, if I threw out a time, it'd be October. That's just based upon Brian's schedule mostly. He's not always able to be available for these. So yeah, so go ahead and take advantage of it. Price action looks great here during the summer. It doesn't feel like it's going to be one of those slower summers. If anything, it feels like it's going to be pretty darn active. So any closing comments, Brian, before we let everybody roll on with their day?
No, well, I guess what I will say, if what we've showed you today resonates with you as a trader, would love to have you join us and come on board. And for those of you that have decided to make that step, and congratulations to you. Look forward to seeing you in the room. I would encourage you to get into the room, and let's walk through the system with you.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, everybody. Really appreciate it. We didn't want to go too long. Again, like we mentioned, it's Friday. Have a great summer weekend. We hope to see you on board with the High Velocity Wave Trader. If you need to ask us any questions, anything we didn't answer, I'll put into the little comments here as well. Shoot us an email. We're more than happy to answer any additional questions that'll get routed over to Brian as the developer of this system, just in case there's still something that we didn't get to. I think we got to most of the questions, but more than happy to email back and forth, or if you need a phone call or anything, we're here for that as well. So that's it, Brian. Hey, thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Have a great weekend,
Thanks,
and we'll
everybody.
talk to you all soon.
Have a good weekend.